You ready to do this, Matt?
Yes, sir. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Forces of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 188. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by, relax a while. Hey, if you like what you're hearing, you hit that subscribe button and you can get us each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, I am coming to you from a Fortress of Nerditude location unknown in an underground bunker high up in the hills of somewhere remote.
Ooh.
How are you? Are you in the normal place of the Fortress of Nerditude?
I am in my own personal cave. Yes. Still here in Texas, but we'll be joining you at the undisclosed location tomorrow.
I know. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So we're just in major prep mode. So
I would imagine.
Yeah, my weekly update is us doing a lot of preparation. And a little more than normal, with a little more anxiety than normal, just because of how flights are right now, with how things are spiking here in Texas. And so it's been a little more stressful, a few more precautions, a few more calls to our airline to make sure that we're all sitting together so we're not double exposing ourselves. And I think we've got it all figured out, though. I'm feeling pretty good.
Now, you were telling me you have to change planes twice?
Yeah.
So are you flying directly in? You're flying somewhere.
Yeah.
And then from that somewhere you're flying in. Are you flying into the main hub city here where we're located? And then are you driving, or do you take the little commuter flight?
Nope, we're driving. So we're flying to Houston, then flying to Denver, then flying to Billings, and driving all the way the rest of the way.
Oh, that's miserable.
So it'll be a day.
So what time does your first flight leave in the morning, and when do you think you'll actually be on site here?
I think it leaves at 7:30 in the morning, and then we will be on site where you are, hopefully by 6.
Wow.
So
wow.
All in all, a decently long day, but
yep.
Better than driving the full 24.
That's true. That is true.
Those were our choices, and we chose to fly. Even though,
that's you're in a tough spot, right? Because you've got, Emmy, who's 3, but Lando's 9 months?
Yeah.
And so how do you do 3 days in a car with him, or just a day of, flying, and then a little bit of driving, but you got to weigh the risks of both, and that's tough.
Yep. Absolutely. So it is what it is. It's been what it's been. And we're just ready to have it be about 24 hours from right now, and we'll be happy campers. So I think once we touch down and we're done with flying, we'll all feel a little bit better, because flying with kids is stressful just because you don't want to piss anybody off around you if they freak out and they're upset and all that stuff. So I'm not uber worried about catching the virus. I'm more just stressed that there's so many layovers and so many connecting flights, and trying to make sure that we get everything, and the kids and car seats and strollers, and
Yeah. I get it. So you've been packing and prepping.
Yeah, packing and prepping, playing The Last of Us 2 when I can, which maybe 3 hours this week. So,
how many hours would you say you're into the game total?
I want to say about 8.
Okay.
Or 8 or 9, right. I want to say. But I'd have to go back. I just push the PlayStation button and put it to sleep, because it will log in the game. If you go to your file, it will tell you how long you've been playing. But because I never turned off my PlayStation, it's always in sleep mode. I never know. I just kind of suspend the software and then just keep playing, because I'm not playing anything else.
Right.
So I don't know, but that would be my guess, somewhere around there. And yeah, so that's been. I mean, other than that, just hanging out. I mean, we didn't go anywhere. Like I said, there's a little bit of a spike here in Texas. A lot of bit of a spike here in Texas. So
right.
We're not really going anywhere much. We did go out to eat once, but that's it. Like nowhere else. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, we're excited for tomorrow to head out and, I don't know, get out of San Antonio. We've been here in lockdown for a long time, so it's nice to have something to look forward to get away from it all.
Yeah, I gotcha. I get what you're saying. Well, we made the drive Saturday, so we're recording on Monday. We made the drive on Saturday, and we got up at 6 a.m., or technically I was awake at 5:20, and the boys came in around 5:40 and asked us when we were leaving, and we got up and kind of started getting ready at 6. By the time 7 o'clock hit, we were finally all packed, and we were leaving the house. And we made it in 13 hours.
Wow.
And that shaved an hour off the last time, hour and a half off the last time we made the drive. Jackson did not get car sick. I mean, he felt a little wobbly a time or two, but we were giving him the
Dramamine.
The Dramamine, and he was wearing C-bands the whole time, because I was like,
okay.
I don't want to deal with cleaning the kid up and vomit again. I'm like, ugh. So we kept him on all the car sick medications stuff that we could. And we did make sure that every time we stopped for a potty break or gas, we grabbed food at the same time. And we got both of the boys out and just let them get out of their seats, walk around, stretch their legs a little bit.
Sure.
So that when we, so we didn't have to make a big stop, right? Because in past trips, it's been the kids are freaking out, Jackson's sick or feeling sick, and so we need to get him out of the car for a good half hour, kind of let him kind of come back to normal. So we stop, we have a half hour, and then we get going again. This time it was just boom, gas, everyone runs in, we go to the bathroom real fast, come back out, back in again, and we're off.
Right.
And we probably could have got here in about 12 and a half hours, but we ended up sitting for almost half an hour outside of West Yellowstone, or a little north of West Yellowstone, because they're doing some construction on some of the little bridges that cross over the rivers.
Yeah.
And I do love making that drive during the summer through that area, because it is just gorgeous. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous through that area as you kind of skirt around the outside of Yellowstone National Park.
Yep.
I mean, technically you're in the park, but you're not you don't have to go through the national park part where you have to have a pass and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we did that. We got up here, and then yesterday was our first full day here, and it's so fun because the kids are just having a ball playing with each other, but at the same time, last night, the upstairs bedroom where all the kids kind of sleep together, there was a miscommunication and someone felt too cold on the main or second main level of the house earlier in the day, so they turned up the temperature, and they didn't know that it also turned the temperature up in the attic area. And so, I think all the kids went to bed last night around 9:45 because they were sweating to death up there. And so Charlie came down and he wasn't having fun. He was like, "Daddy, I just want to go home. I just want to go home." I was like, "I know, bud, I know." He's like, "How many more days?" I'm like,
"Oh my gosh."
He was just miserable, and he was whining and crying. But it was because he was super hot and he couldn't fall asleep and he was exhausted. And so we kind of got all that sorted out last night, and the kids eventually fell asleep. But it's kind of one of those things. And there is a lot of people in this house already. And there's a lot, and some of the kids, are now older, right? So, Valentine just runs around and just talks and jabbers. And the last time I was up here, I think she was crawling, maybe?
Right.
So, it's kind of crazy. And I know when you guys get up here, Emmy's going to be the same like Valentine, run around, just full on talking and doing her thing. And, so it's just, you know how this is. It's a madhouse. Yeah. It's good. It's good to be all together, but it's also a madhouse. So anyway, this is where we're at. I did bring my PlayStation 4. It is set up down here in the basement bedroom where I am recording from.
Nice.
And I did start The Last of Us Part 2 yesterday.
You did? How many hours do you think you played?
Maybe 2 hours.
Okay, I bet I know where you are.
Yeah, I'm not very far, and I'll tell you off the podcast because I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. Okay. For
anyone that may play, but it's interesting because I'm coming from playing a whole bunch of Final Fantasy VII, the remake, and now the original streaming on Twitch, and then to jump back into this and I had every intention of replaying the original game for the 5th time before this game, so I could feel part of the world again, and I just ran out of time. I ran out of time to do it. And so jumping back in, and the combat's pretty much all the same, the controls are pretty much all the same. There is a few slight changes and differences, but it's interesting though because I feel home, if that makes sense. It feels comfortable to me. But at the same time, I'm also starting to realize oh yes, I forget how dark that first game really was at times. And here I am, having to turn on my little light and having to put my mask on. And, it's and clickers just showed up. And I was for the first time, I was
yeah.
Yep. I'm oh yeah, this is this world. It's been a while.
Yep.
So, my plan is to play this a lot this week. And to try to play it in the evenings, when and where I can, and try to fit in as much of this game as I possibly can while I'm up here.
Nice.
I'd like to try to finish it while I'm here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know if that's going to be possible, but I'd like to try at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. I'm doing that. Still watching Community, still going through my Community playthrough. I think it's fair to say that we've got a community idea for a podcast we want to do, and I've kind of started letting that cat out of the bag a little bit on one of my Twitch streams this week, because we were talking about community and we were talking about Parks and Rec and a few things during that Twitch stream with the super friends that were hanging out, and I think when you get here, we're gonna make some plans, and then we're gonna let the super friends know what's really going to happen and what we're planning, because we're going to want to have this be a kind of a community, no pun intended, a community type event for community.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Anyway, let's see what else is going on. This last week, okay, cool things happen. So this last week also, I was playing on Twitch, twitch.tv/FortofNerds79, super friends. Come hang out, smash the follow button, say hello, become a super friend over there. I'm playing, right? And I think I told you that the previous weekend we were doing Legos and I got rated with 76 people.
Yeah.
And, had that, and that was exciting because that's the most I've ever seen in a single stream. But this week, I was noticing that I'm starting to get my average number of people that are kind of hanging out on a average basis has been going up and up and up. And then I've been getting more subs. And so someone can sub your channel if they have Amazon Prime. They can give the streamer $5. Twitch takes about half of it. So if you sub me at $5, I get $2.72 of it. And basically I just use that money that I get to put back into, fixing up the stream more, adding more things, getting some better equipment, this, that, and the other. Maybe down the road I'll be able to use it to get a video game or two. But this last week, I crossed a couple thresholds. So when you're starting out and you're streaming, you have to have so many followers and so many average views in order to get monetized and make affiliate. Once you make affiliate, you get a single emote slot. And then you don't unlock your next emote slot until you get 15 paid subscriptions. And then after 15, you don't unlock your next until you get to 25. And then you'll unlock your next emote slot at 35. And then the last one is at 50. And this last month, I unlocked the 15, the 25, and the 35. Wow. So I unlocked an additional 3 emote slots. So people that subscribe to my channel and either use their free Amazon Prime benefit or use their own money and sub to my channel for $5. They now can have up to 4 emote slots. I've got 3 there currently. I've got a friend that's working on a couple more. Big shout out to Mallrat. Mallrat is a streamer. You definitely should check him out. Mallrat OW is his handle over there. But he has been helping me make some of my emotes, and I'm just absolutely in love with them. They're so much fun. I love seeing it when super friends will spam them in chat while I'm playing a game and something will happen, and a big something happens and they start spamming the hype emote, or they're spamming my flex emote, and now I've got a Krypton emote, which is a bunch of kryptonite which says Krypton under it. So anyway, just a lot of fun, and unlocked some new things there. So it's nice to see more growth, and things are happening there, and we're having a great time. And I'm gonna tell you, Matt, I've done some goofy stuff this last week on Twitch because you can earn these little channel points. The longer you watch, you earn channel points. And I give my super friends that hang out, everyone earns these just by hanging on the channel. There's nothing you have to do. You get them for free. But you can cash those in to make me do things like, do a posture check, hydrate, drink some water. I had on their sit-ups and push-ups. I took that off because I'd hurt my back. But one of them is make me talk in an accent. And
oh, right. So, yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, so this last week I did a lot of Kermit the Frog, which is a pretty solid accent that I do. And then the other one is Krypton karaoke time, where I'll let the super friend redeem points and then choose a song for me to sing. And it has to be clean, and I have to either somewhat know it, or what I started doing this week was opening up YouTube and singing along to it and just not playing the music, because like we talked about, I think last week, Twitch has gotten pretty serious with going after people that are using copyrighted material. So you just hear me kind of a cappella singing along to the song. Well, these Joker super friends of ours are going in and redeeming talk with an accent and choosing Kermit, and then immediately choosing redeem Krypton karaoke to try to force me to sing as Kermit the Frog, which is a lot harder to do.
Nice.
And it gets, oh my gosh, it is just ridiculous. It was just some really goofy, fun times, and it was a real fun week. And this week, I'm actually taking the week off while we're up here with family, so I'm not going to be streaming anything. So it's kind of sad. I know that today's Monday. I don't usually stream on Mondays, but I know that tomorrow night, when tomorrow night rolls around, I know I'm going to be looking at my clock thinking, hey man, I gotta get out of here. I gotta start getting ready because I've got to go live, but none of that's going to happen. So it'll be a sad week not to be streaming with the super friends, but it'll also be a good week spent with family.
Yeah.
So.
Cool, man.
Or at least I hope so.
Yeah, right? It'll be great.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It'll be good. Anyway, that's really all that's been going on. I mean, a lot of last week was just, Twitch streaming and packing and getting ready, and then the trip up here, and now we're here. So, anywho. Super friends, I think it's time that we roll this party into some Rebel Intelligence. Matt, what do you think?
Let's do it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Matt, we're into Rebel Intelligence. Many Bothans have died once again. What do you have for me this week?
All right, so I believe about a month ago, maybe more than that, we talked about kind of some rumors about a Pirates of the Caribbean film involving, I think, Karen Gillan or Gillan, whatever.
Yes.
So the new report is that Margot Robbie is set to star in a female-led Pirates of the Caribbean film for Disney, and is bringing along writer for Birds of Prey, Christina Hodson. We don't know much. It's not intended to be a spin-off of the original franchise, nor are they saying that it is a reboot or in any way connected to the 5 or 20, however many films there are now, in any way. And that this does not mean that the reboot with Karen Gillan is not going to happen. This is just a completely separate thing with its own story, own characters, no connection to anything whatsoever. A full-on new pirate movie.
So, I mean, are they still going to be using the title like Pirates of the Caribbean?
Great question. I would assume they will.
I mean, so this is like where I kind of start going like, okay, if you start spinning stuff off or doing things that are separate, like, I think there's room for pirate movies. I personally like
love pirate movies. Love pirates.
Yeah, cool. I love the characters of pirates and what they can do storytelling wise. They can do some really cool things. But there comes a point where like you start stretching like the tie to the original so far that like you get to the kind of the end and you're like, is this anything like why are we still using this name? Like it's a completely separate thing. And so like I kind of look at this and I go, okay, if you do a new Pirates film, but like why tie into the name Pirates of the Caribbean? Well, probably because it's a well-known commodity and people will say, oh, look, a new Pirates of the Caribbean movie, so they'll go see it. But like if it has nothing to do with the original, has no ties in with kind of that existing franchise, why not
change the ocean? Pirates of the Atlantic.
Right, yes. That's exactly right. Something different.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Bermuda Triangle.
Ooh.
Okay, we still know that's the Caribbean. But Pirates of the Bermuda, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just
something different. I don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. There's not a lot of detail, but this one has more legs than kind of what appears to be kind of the rumor from before. So
interesting.
That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off with some other Disney news. Disney was supposed to put out the Mulan movie this year, right?
Yep. Yes.
The live action remake of Mulan, something that we've been personally here on this podcast really excited for, because we're also wondering if they're going to have the music from Mulan, because the music from Mulan is amazing, and all the teasers and trailers don't really give us any hints of any music whatsoever.
Right.
I still think that they have to. Anyway, that I know, it bugs me. It just bugs me. It's like, just give me a little bit, just a taste. I know. So the problem is that this movie was supposed to come out 2 months ago on March 27th. Then it got pushed to July 24th. Now it's been pushed again to August 21st. And basically the statement from Disney executives Alan Horn and Alan Bergman, the two Allens, as we know them, basically says, while the pandemic has changed our release plans for Mulan, and we will continue to be flexible as conditions require, it has not changed our belief in the power of this film and its message of hope and perseverance. So basically just saying, like, we still believe that, this is an amazing story. We're just having to change this because of all the things going on. It has nothing to do with the quality of content. Because if you remember a little bit ago, there was another movie by Disney called Artemis Fowl, and that movie was intended to go into theaters, but they didn't have a lot of faith in that movie, so they allowed it to go straight to Disney Plus, because they were like, well, let's at least get this out there, because if it's not that good, holding on to it to put it in the theaters. We're not going to get people to go see it anyway, so let's hold on for our bigger releases like Mulan. So, I don't know, Matt. I hear this and I see this moving again. I just think that this is going to be the nature of the movie industry until the world kind of gets a grasp on this whole coronavirus, COVID-19, until we can figure out ways to safely do things and control the spread, at least to the best of our abilities, or until a vaccine or a treatment that can, all but make it disappear, the symptoms wise, right? I think movie theaters are just in a tough spot. The whole industry is just in a tough spot because nothing's coming out. Everything's being delayed. Everything's being moved.
Yeah. It's a bummer. I mean, this is now going to be 5 months pushed back. It's a long time. I mean, you look at it now, and it seemed like July was going to be okay. If you'd asked me even 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds about right. But you just can't predict what's going to happen with this. And I know that Christopher Nolan's movie got pushed back too. And he was adamant about it not being pushed back, but Warner Brothers obviously got him to push it to August as well. So it's a bummer.
I mean, it's a business though, right? Like that's the thing too. Like I kind of look at this and I say, like, I get it. Like creators, directors, screenwriters, the people that created this, they want their vision, their product, their passion to be out in the world so that they can, share that, because that's the reason why they created it.
Yeah.
But the business side of it's like, well, yes, you created this wonderful thing, but we're selling tickets to this and we're making money off of it, and we want to get the most eyeballs we possibly can. It's the same reason with TV. The only reason we have TV shows is because of advertising. If there was no advertising, we wouldn't have TV shows, because they just cost. Otherwise, they just cost the studios money.
Right.
So.
Yep, it is what it is, and hopefully we'll go see it in August.
Gosh. Do you think August is going to hold out?
I don't know. I don't freaking know. Who cares? Whatever. I'll see it when it comes out.
Right. Yeah. It's a wait and see for Mulan, Super Friends. I'm sorry. I want it. I want it bad. I want to see this one. Like, I'm really excited by this one, but we're just going to have to wait a bit.
Yeah. So I've got some more Disney news.
Oh, okay.
And this is for Disneyland and Disney World. And
yes.
It's a pretty massive change.
Yes, it is.
For anybody who is familiar with the Disney theme parks, you know that there are certain rides that just are synonymous with your Disney experience. You got Space Mountain, Matterhorn if you're a Disneyland fan like I am. You've got Big Thunder Mountain, and of course you've got Splash Mountain. One of these rides is about to completely change. And of course, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that it's going to be Splash Mountain. And Splash Mountain being loosely based, I will say, or its characters are based on the controversial 1946 film Song of the South. And it's been long buried due to the depictions of black people in slavery. And I mean, what's always been interesting to me is this attraction was made in 1989. So it's not like it's an old kind of holdout. This is a ride that hasn't been around all that long. But long story short, they are completely retheming the attraction to the movie The Princess and the Frog from 2009. And they say this is a project that Imagineers have been working on since last year, and it's been more than a year since they started talking about it. Maybe not. I don't know. They do recognize that in the climate today, that this project has been kind of pushed forward with the concept of inclusivity and diversity, which is great. What's your initial reaction? Because I know that you already knew this was happening. I'm curious
what
your reaction was, what maybe your wife's reaction was, and I'm just curious.
I frankly don't care if they redo this. What's interesting to me is, like, I remember going to Disneyland for the first time and riding Splash Mountain, and the song Zippity Doo-Dah is playing, right? And that's the big song from the film. That song is a very, very popular Disney song.
Yep.
It is well known all over the place. However, it comes from a very controversial movie. And a movie you really can't find. I mean, you can find it, but like, it's not in print. Disney isn't selling the movie and hasn't been selling the movie for a long, long, long time. But the characters, for me, like, I've never seen this movie. So, like, all the characters that are in the Splash Mountain area, I'm like, oh, these are kind of cool. Look, they got little signs to tell you who they are. Briar Rabbit, Briar Bear, you know, you got the little weasels or whatever. Like, it's fine. Like, it's fun. But for me, it's always kind of like, but I've never seen this movie. So, like, I don't identify with the characters. It's that and the fact that it's a water ride, and either you're going to get a little wet or you're going to get soaked. Just depends on, you know, the time of the day and where you're sitting. It's never really been one of my favorite rides there. I don't dislike it. Like, I don't hate it. And I don't hate the theming in it, because it's fun. Like, when you ride it, it is really fun. It's really bright and vibrant, and there's a lot going on, and it's cute, and it's playful. But I don't identify with it because I've never seen the movie. So it's kind of this thing where, like, we've got a ride that there's huge generations of Disney fans that don't have any frame of reference to the theming. And so I've seen people online this last week saying, like, it always really set kind of weird with me. That ride always kind of set kind of weird with me. I was like, it's because you've never seen the movie. And you don't know these characters. When you go and you ride Peter Pan, you've seen Peter Pan. When you go and ride the Teacups, well, I mean, name any other ride there that's, you know, has the Disney theming, right? And you'll say, oh, okay, I've seen the Toy Story. So Slinky Dog makes sense. Like, but that one doesn't. So I'm okay. I'm completely okay with this. I think Princess and the Frog is a great idea because I think they can change out the characters that are there, but still kind of have, because some of it kind of has that swampy kind of, you know, southern feel already.
Yeah.
And so switching it to Princess and the Frog is going to make some sense. And I'm fine with it. I talked to my wife Brita, and Brita seemed fine with it. I don't really know a lot of people that are up in arms, or if there's, you know, a presence on the internet of people, you know, saying like, you know, keep it the way it is, you know, I love that, blah, blah, blah. I don't think there's that going on. At least maybe there is. I just haven't heard it. I haven't seen it. But
yeah, I have a completely different perspective, and all I've heard are people complaining.
Really?
Oh yeah, in my family, this is like a game changer, big deal.
Really?
And I will counter all your points and say Space Mountain has no Disney theming, Matterhorn, no Disney theming, Big Thunder, no Disney theming. You know, this is, to me, growing up, this was Disney. And I think to a lot of people, this was like the pinnacle of your experience. At least it was for me. It was always like I was too scared to ride it. The big drop, like it was like my whole world revolved around this ride. Not so anymore. But when I was younger, I mean, this was Disney. That being said, for me, I can't wait for the re-theming. I think it's fantastic. I'm super excited. But you ask my sisters, it's game over, lights out, like tears.
See, that's weird to me. So, like, yes, Disneyland, Disney World, they do have rides that aren't Disney themed. You know, like, especially in Disney World, right, with Epcot. But, yes, but you brought up Space Mountain, Matterhorn. Yes, those ones, but they don't have any Disney theming in them. So, like, I'm saying of, like, the ones that are, like, Disney themed, for me, that one always was kind of weird because I was like, I've never seen that movie.
Right. I don't know that anybody even really connects it. And that's to your point as well. Right. I don't think anybody even makes that connection. But for me, my siblings, and the people in the Disney boards, I will say, that doesn't matter so much as it's the experience of Disneyland and Disney World that those things have been there. Long story short, there's both sides, just like there are to things when they redid Tower of Terror to make it
sure. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Thank you. Or when they took away whatever that roller coaster and they made it themed to The Incredibles. I mean, people are happy, people are sad.
Oh, yeah.
People are whatever. That's going to happen. But this is pretty big news. I mean, this is a major attraction. One of the big ones that they're changing, and I can't wait. I think it's going to be really cool.
I tell you what, that ride is just right around the corner from where they have the Pirates of the Caribbean, and they have the Blue Bayou, which is kind of like that New Orleans Square area. So like to have it just like up and just over around the corner a little bit from there, and to have it Princess and the Frog and, you know, Gumbo and Bayou and like that, I think that's totally cool. I also am kind of one of the people that looks at Disneyland and says, you can change anything in Disneyland except two things, in my opinion. Well, maybe three. One, you can't change Fantasyland. Things like the teacups, the storybook ride, Dumbo, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, like those, because they were the originals and because they're like classic beloved Disney.
Yep.
You can't change Main Street that leads up to kind of the center. And then you can't take down permanently the train that goes around it because it was such a huge love of Walt. Any other ride, if you want to say, hey, we're pulling out Space Mountain, hey, I love Space Mountain. It's a fun ride. You want to pull it out and put something else there? Fine. You want to change the Tower of Terror from using the Twilight Zone theming and go with Guardians of the Galaxy theming? Fine. No problem. Like, I look and I go, oh, well, I'll miss the old stuff. But I think it's good to refresh and renew, and that just, in my opinion, the holy grails are Fantasyland, Main Street, and the railroad.
Right. And everyone's going to have their own little holy grails. Splash Mountain is a holy grail in the Shaw family. So this has rattled a lot of my family. Like, you could take Peter Pan out completely and I wouldn't care less. But
yeah, see, that's where you and I have to rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's different. Like, every ride, there's going to be different feelings. I mean, it's basically, for me and for a lot of people who love Disney, it's what stuck with you the first time or the first few times you went, or what rides did your kids like?
Sure.
Don't mess with my memories. And I think that's unfortunately what's going to happen anytime Disney changes any attraction. It could be something like a terrible attraction and people are going to be upset that it's gone.
Yeah, well, like, do you remember when they took out the little Bugs Life area?
I hated Bugs Life area. Yes.
I didn't care for that area either, but like people were going crazy about it. And now that Bugs Life area is
it's going to be Marvel.
It's going to be Marvel, but like right now it's what is it? It's I'm trying to think what they've got there right now. Isn't that where they got some of the Toy Story stuff?
No.
What am I thinking?
It's just demolished right now. There's nothing there.
Oh, well, because they're building the Marvel, but they had other stuff. Yeah. Anyway. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Twitch some, since I am the Twitch streamer here on the podcast. Something really is interesting kind of going on Twitch, and I've got two different things. I'll talk about one, and then we'll get to the other one. But out of the blue, Twitch just announced that one of their biggest, most popular streamers, Dr. Disrespect, has been banned from their platform. And they didn't give any reason why. And they basically just kind of put out a statement that was basically, I don't know what it was. It was basically kind of this, just kind of generic, whatever. And some other people that know Dr. Disrespect, some kind of inside industry people, also kind of heard that the ban is permanent. Like, it's not a temporary ban, because sometimes if you break Twitch's terms of service, you will get, maybe a permanent, like a temporary suspension. Like, you may be suspended for a week or a month.
Yeah.
And you can appeal it, but you can get banned for like a 6-month period or something, but they're saying is a permanent ban. And the interesting thing is Dr. Disrespect kind of came out and basically just said, like, they didn't even tell me, because he's a partner. Like, if you're a streamer and have just made monetization like myself, you're an affiliate. And it means Twitch takes half of anything that you ever make over there. But once you become a partner, you're doing really, really good. Like, you've got a lot of viewers, and they want you to keep more of your money because you help draw people into their platform. And literally just last year, Twitch had signed Dr. Disrespect for a much bigger contract and whatnot. And all of a sudden he's gone. And they're saying, that, he done something, but they're not really saying it. And Dr. Disrespect he's been suspended before. He walked into a bathroom with a microphone on during an E3 event and was talking, and he got a temporary suspension because apparently, being in the bathroom or something or whatever he was doing wasn't whatever. So, he's done other things where he's kind of spread some conspiracy theories about the coronavirus, and he's, talked about coronavirus jokes with other people. He's engaged in a lot of toxicity on the platform. Whether you like him or not, the real person plays this character up of Dr. Disrespect. I mean, he smack talks everyone, and he's a very popular Fortnite streamer, Call of Duty streamer, that sort of thing. And he had this multi-year deal and a television show in development. And they're saying that his contract could have been worth up to $10 million. And all of a sudden, boom, Twitch bans him. Doesn't say why. He's not saying why right now, although some of the things I've read think that maybe he knows why.
Yeah.
But he wasn't informed of it ahead of time. He just found out when everyone found out. And so I think there's more that's going to come of this. I would tune in and watch some of Dr. Disrespect every now and again and watch clips of his, because he is an amazing Fortnite player. But sometimes I just would find real funny when he'd be playing with people and just kind of the persona he played, because it's almost kind of like watching a professional wrestler that's a bad guy. And he's putting on a show, he's playing a character. And so you kind of, it can be funny, but yeah, this is interesting. This is big, especially with Mixer going down, and, and people are jumping ship elsewhere to see, one of Twitch's kind of, premier partners, one of their kind of flagship entities permanently banned this week, seemingly out of the blue with no explanation. Just was kind of a shock, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for others.
Sure.
With him being banned, see who steps up and who gains all those watchers, subscribers. Very interesting. Oh, man.
Yep.
That's rough.
To go along with that, this is just a little small piece, but apparently our president, Donald Trump, has a Twitch channel. I think we talked about that end of last year. And, said, obviously he's not a gamer. And apparently they have suspended his account. They haven't banned his account, but his account is currently in suspension. And we don't know if it will be reinstated. But basically, the Twitch has come out and basically said that hateful conduct is not allowed on Twitch. And in line with our policies, President Donald Trump's channel has been issued a temporary suspension for Twitch for comments made on stream and offending content has been removed. And basically, what he was doing was, or let's be honest, not him himself, someone in his campaign is basically using the Twitch platform to rebroadcast his rallies,
Right. Okay.
His political rallies and such. And of course, like Twitter and Facebook recently, they're taking a harder stance with politicians. And if politicians are saying things that are hurtful, harmful, threatening, racist, bigoted, dangerous, anything where they're, harassing people for violence, religion, sex, sexual orientation, any of that kind of stuff, anything that falls into that realm. Facebook, Twitter, and now Twitch are taking action on their platforms, which they have the right to do.
Sure.
And so he's had 2 things that violated terms of services. So the president's channel has been suspended. And, the president's not the first person. I mean, if you remember, Bernie Sanders was trying to use a Twitch channel as well to reach the younger demographic. There's not a lot of, very, very old people that are on Twitch. It tends to skew towards the younger demographic. But I believe that he is the first politician to receive a suspension. So
interesting.
Very, very interesting. Huh. So there's that for you.
Well, I've got something that's really cool that I'm so stoked for.
Okay.
Warner Brothers. I never thought I'd say that in the same sentence. Stoked for and Warner Brothers, but
yep.
Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment's rumored Harry Potter RPG is reportedly set to release in late 2021 on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. And this is a report from Bloomberg.
Okay.
So this is one of the first kind of reputable sites that are claiming to have the information. There's been rumors about a Harry Potter RPG for a couple of years now, with a gameplay leak back in 2018 that I watched and was like, oh my gosh, I hope this is real. It was really rough looking, though. I mean, it was kind of the beginning of it. But supposedly, the project is said to let players become wizards in an open world that takes place at Hogwarts and its nearby locations.
Hogsmeade.
Hogsmeade also, probably.
Yeah.
And then it says that, so 2 anonymous sources close to the project have said the project is definitely very real and that it's being developed by Disney Infinity Studio, Avalanche Software, in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Wow.
The project is moving forward through the pandemic. It's still on course and on track. It's caused a few little bumps, they say, but not enough to push any release date. And we should be expecting to roam freely. I mean, they say open world. Roam freely around Hogwarts, the grounds, as, I hope, my own wizard, but maybe I'll have to play as Harry, but hopefully you can choose your own wizard and have your own adventure in this amazing world that I love so much. So I am so excited for the potential for that game.
I love everything you just told me.
Good.
I just love all that. So you're saying that the game's still going forward?
Yep.
But we have no date though, right?
Late 2021. It's all
late 2021. It'll be on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X.
Yes.
Oh gosh, this is one of those things where I've seen some of those Harry Potter games, and I'm never very impressed with them. And I'm just like, oh, it would be nice to get something that's good in that world, in a video game form. So, fingers crossed. Yeah. That's what we're gonna get at some point down the road.
Here's to hoping, man.
Because how funny it would be, instead of having Hagrid say, "You're a wizard, Harry," it'd be something like, "You're a wizard, Blargle Dark."
Yes.
The fair.
Yes.
Or something. I don't know.
Oh man.
And by the way, Blargle Dark Super Friends is not my official name, but you can't take that name. I'm trademarking it now. Blargle Dark the Fair.
Seems odd.
I don't know why. That's what came up.
I love it.
I love it. All right. The last thing I have. So this is back another Twitch story. So over this last weekend, 50 people, mostly of them women, came forward accusing streamers and other people that work for Twitch, most of them men, of sexual abuse. And as the last few days, the last week or so has progressed, now that those wave of accusations are up over 100, and Twitch has finally promised to kind of look into this and it's an interesting thing because it's a platform that allows, video gamers to stream, but you can also stream like, crafters, makers, musicians, whatever.
Right.
You can stream, but I stream. I talk with my people. I interact with my people, with the super friends that kind of come and hang out and chat. And we've got a great community, and like we never get any bad actors in there. We never get people in there. Occasionally someone will drop in and they'll want to start trolling and they'll start saying things, but I've got a mod or two. And as soon as that happens, they ban them automatically. They kick them out. And so like, we just don't deal with that. Like, we don't entertain that. We don't get into toxicity. But apparently we know that there are, obviously, this is the internet and this is the world we live in. There are people that do. And they take it too far. They're obviously doing things they shouldn't be doing. And so there's a list of streamers that have been banned for sexual misconduct. And Twitch is saying that they're trying to take a harder stance. They're reviewing each case that's coming in. They're trying to, look as quickly as they can. They're trying to, permanently ban people or suspend people based on what's going on. It's interesting though, because a lot of these people that have come forward lately are saying that they're actually really, really surprised because what's happening is like they thought no one was going to take them serious. And it seems like this is just kind of steamrolling, becoming a big thing. And people are trying to take this more seriously, which I think it's 2020. Like, you better take it seriously, right? If someone makes an accusation against someone else, like, let's take it seriously. Let's believe the person that's making the accusation. Let's look into it. Let's find out if there is merit and validity to the accusation and take appropriate action. Let's not just automatically discredit someone who makes an accusation. Let's look into this. And so Twitch is looking into it, but some of these people are saying, that they've been, there's been accuses of physical, sexual abuse, aggression, manipulation by streamers. People have directly benefited from sexual encounters and whatnot. And so, like, I look at all this and it's like, man, my experience obviously isn't this, because that's not the world in which I want to be in or would associate with that, and if there was things like that, obviously I would be going the other way. But the sad thing is that there's people out there that will find people and, try to use leverage over them, try to find advantages or, whatever. And so, like, I kind of look at this and I'm like, man, there's people that are, doing things in order to get, advantages in this world, and people that are, abusing it, and people, it's just crazy to me. It's like, can we just, like, enough of this already in this world? Like, can we just treat people with decency and kindness? Can we just do the things that our mothers and fathers taught us to do that are correct? And can we just please help police our communities better, so that if we see this sort of behavior happening, that someone speaks up and says something before it's too late, before something happens.
Right.
And I'm not saying that like that's on like the person that's being, accosted. The person, like, no, like if you're in a channel, man, or if you're sitting there and you're listening to something go on and someone's saying something they shouldn't, like, call them out on it, say something, stand up for that person, because if you don't take that opportunity to do that, the person that's doing things they shouldn't be doing thinks that it's okay for them to keep doing that.
Agreed.
So, anyway, it's kind of this weird thing. Gosh darn it! I hope that we get past this as a culture and a society. But I'm glad that Twitch is trying to do something about it. I'd like to see them get really aggressive with this to put an end to this. I feel bad for the people that have been put in these horrible situations. So
rough.
Anyway, that was the last thing I had. There's more to it, but I don't want to get into the nitty gritty and all the real weeds.
Right.
Matt, did you have anything else?
No, I'm out.
Can we argue back? Can we go back to the more fun topic of arguing about which rides at Disneyland and Disney World are sacred to each other?
Sure, let's do that. No.
Yeah. Okay, Matt. Last week we were talking about fathers. We're talking about fatherhood. We asked the Super Friends, what was some dad advice they have or dad advice they may have picked up from a TV show or movie, and we're going to read 2 of those today, and then we'll continue on. So let's go over to our email, fortofnerd@gmail.com. We have Peter Christensen. He says, "Dear nerds, Matt, I think we might have the same anniversary, June 20th?
Yeah, that's it."
He says, "Happy anniversary."
Thank you.
He says, "I refuse..." Oh, this is so good. "I refuse to acknowledge that Billy Mitchell is a good guy. His portrayal in King of Kong was the most despicable villain ever. That movie was basically a documentary version of Dodgeball, but Billy Mitchell was more outrageous than Ben Stiller's White Goodman." I love that. Okay, he says, "The Flash, Crisis on Infinite Earth sounds like a cool storyline. I never read DC Comics, so I'm not familiar with the epic storylines, but I know Marvel's. So far, Civil War and Infinity War have turned out pretty amazing, and hopefully they'll eventually get Dark Phoenix right. Maybe they'll reach into the DC multiverse and find a better version of Suicide Squad, or maybe stray bat nipples, R.I.P. Joel. I don't have a TV father that came to mind as my first reaction, so I had to do some research. My father died when I was a year old, so I never got attached to the fatherhood storylines or relationships. For example, I've never seen Field of Dreams, and I don't miss it. I enjoyed the Tony Stark, Peter Parker, father figure relationship in the MCU, but you got to watch Tony grow from an exploitive to absent to hard teacher to grief to final relief before he dies. And Peter goes through the child side of all those phases. Some other rapid-fire movie fathers. Goonies. Mike and Bran's dad is barely in the movie, but as an adult, I deeply sympathize with him having to tell his family that he failed, and that they have to leave their home. That's an underrated, difficult father challenge that is overlooked in favor of, gangsters and pirate treasure hunts. Guardians of the Galaxy. Peter Quill, Star-Lord, is like many characters that goes through life with a piece missing because he never knew his father. He eventually meets his father, who turns out to be a psychopathic planet god, and realizes that Yondu, the psychopath with a heart of gold, was the man who raised him. In Yondu's words, "He may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy, boy." Italian Job. Charlie, an orphan, sees his mentor father figure, John Bridger, betrayed and killed during a job he arranged, while Stella loses her estranged father and has to work with Charlie, who she blames for the death, to get the real revenge on her father's killer. That's a movie I've, by the way, only seen like once, and I didn't care for, so I don't remember any of that. Yeah. But then he comes in with one of my all-time favorites, Karate Kid. Daniel, whose father died when he was young, becomes a son to Mr. Miyagi, who never had any children. And then Cobra Kai has every possible combination of father figure, betrayal, disappointment, redemption, abuse, and love across multiple families and generations. Last but not least, he says, Liar Liar. Fletcher Reed is a terrible father who constantly disappoints his son. When a wacky child curse forces him to tell the truth for 24 hours, he learns what's important and decides to change his life priorities and actually be a father to his son, all while redlining on Jim Carrey's frantic energy. None of those are traditional fatherhood stories, but one bright side to growing up without a father is that I could pick and choose what lessons and principles I wanted to incorporate into my own career as a father. Cheers, Peter Christensen.
Nice.
I really like that because that's actually kind of like, one of the things, we were kind of alluding to is that, we want to be able to take fatherly advice maybe from other sources, not just necessarily our own, that we could apply, to our children, because there's obviously lessons that can be learned from many sources. So I like that. Let's go over to Facebook for our other one, facebook.com/fortofnerd. And we've got Tim Paulin, and this is what his dad said. He said, buying a home being the exception. If you don't have cash, you can't afford it. And that's a very simple, but that's a really powerful lesson in economics.
Yeah.
If you don't have cash, you can't afford it. And I like that because it really sinks in the idea of not going into debt for things. Because at the end of the day, you can do without. You can be patient. You can wait, save up the money, and then get what you need, with the exception of a home.
Right.
And I really like that because we've been trying in our household to be better fiscally for the last number of years. And I'm trying to impress that on my boys because they get a couple dollars in their piggy bank and they're ready to spend it. Like they just want to go spend.
Right.
So anyway, Super Friends, thank you so much for your answers this week. We appreciate it each and every week. You show up for us and you answer our question of the week. And we want to say a big shout out and a big thank you to you because it does mean a lot to us. And interacting with you is part of our favorite things about this podcast.
Absolutely.
So, Matt, how can the Super Friends help us out this week?
Well, this week, what you can do is think of me, and if you're a religious individual, say a little prayer that the COVID doesn't catch me on the plane. Other than that, drink some Diet Dr. Pepper, because I realized this week it pretty much tastes the same as regular Dr. Pepper. And then do that while you're listening to the podcast, and then leaving some great comments when the social media question posts. And I think we're in for a really great time.
Okay, Matt, so here's the thing. We're doing a movie club tonight for the podcast this week.
Yeah.
And with the 4th of July coming up, I kind of felt like we had done some patriotic stuff recently. We did that for Memorial Day. We've done some patriotic stuff for the 4th of July in the past. So I thought, let's do a movie club that's about the 4th of July or patriotism or something to do with the 4th of July. So, of course, with today, the day the podcast releases, being the 2nd of July, also happens to line up with the fact that 24 years ago, on this day, the podcast releases, there was this little movie by Roland Emmerich that was released titled Independence Day. And it's literally been 24 years to the day when the Super Friends are listening to this, that this movie was released into theaters. I remember actually seeing this movie in the theater because it was on July 2nd, and I was like, it was this big, blockbuster movie that was going to have Will Smith in it, and this is 1996. So this is Will Smith, early Will Smith type of stuff. And I remember thinking, oh great, this movie's coming out, and I remember going into the theater, sitting and watching this movie, and it's a phenomenal summer blockbuster type of movie. And then I remember coming out of the theater and immediately looking up into the sky. Because this is all supposed to take place on the 2nd of July, and I knew it was July 2nd. I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. So today we're going to talk about the movie Independence Day for our movie club. So I did mention that it was released on the 2nd of July. Its actual worldwide release date is technically July 3rd, but in the United States, it opened up on July 2nd in a lot of markets to coincide with the date that the film actually starts on, because this film takes place over 3 days, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. This movie was I think kind of the first movie, not the first movie, but it was kind of the first movie of kind of this next generation of these big Hollywood summer blockbusters that kind of focused on large-scale disasters. So if you remember Independence Day, but then you started having all these other movies Armageddon and what was that called? The Core, and then you started years later you were getting stuff was it The Day After Tomorrow, and there was all these big summer blockbusters that kind of followed for this idea of huge devastation and whatnot, and this big disaster type of thing. Earthquake. I think there was an earthquake movie with like Tommy Lee Jones, if I recall, with like lava going through LA or something. Anyway, but Independence Day was kind of the first one that kind of re-kicked off this resurgence of this. I watched this movie again today, and I think you watched it again earlier today as well, right? Prior to today, when was the last time you watched this film?
Gosh, probably like 20 years ago. I would guess. I don't even know. It's been so long, I don't even know.
I feel like we watched it in our household for a couple years after the movie was released, when we could get it on VHS back then. But I'd say I probably haven't watched it in almost 20 years either. Yeah. It's been a long time. So, 20 years have gone by. Going back to this, Matt, knowing what you remember from the film and then rewatching this, having not seen this for 20 or so years, how does the movie hit you now?
It was so different than I remembered and expected. There were only a few bits and pieces that I remembered. The first thing that hit me, though, was I was so surprised at how this movie starts so quickly.
Right.
I mean, it hits, like, from the first moment. There's no build-up. Really, there's minimal build-up, I'll say. Usually you're kind of used to things happening, and then 30 minutes into the film, a major thing happens, and you kind of go through what you expect from a movie. But this one, it was like, boom. Immediately. Like the first scene. They're catching frequencies from an alien language. And you're like, what? That's not how I remember this movie being. So that was kind of what first hit me, was this is intense from the get-go, and I don't remember that.
I thought the same thing, too, because I remember, from my memories, I remember, like, I remember a lot of the movie, but I'd forgotten that it really starts off, like, right away, which is different, because I think you and I are used to a lot of these movies where there's some prologue, and there's some exposition, and we kind of get an idea of, what, why, blah, 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 and then something starts happening, and then the big thing happens. And this was just like, no, boom. These, flying, spaceships, these unidentified flying objects have appeared all over the world and are moving into position over the major cities, and we don't know what's going on. Like, that's that's happening within the first few minutes of the movie. Yep. And then it becomes all about the reaction of what's going on. What I do love about this is, because of that, it puts all of the characters in the movie on the defensive for most of the film. And I feel like that's different. I feel like today, like nowadays, a lot of the big kind of Hollywood blockbuster movies kind of follow this formula of, like, we see them doing stuff and they're great and whatnot, and then they kind of have a fall from grace, or something happens that puts them low, and then they've got to get back up again in order to overcome and to conquer. But I feel like in this movie, all of our characters are pretty much put in, like, the worst possible situation, and they're fighting they're fighting kind of as the underdog the entire film.
Yeah.
And I liked that. It felt refreshing and different, even though this is a 24-year-old movie that I've seen a number of times.
Right. Yeah, it was very, very defeatist. It was futile. You felt like, man, again, this is different than I remembered the movie being, which I really was happy about. It's way better than I remember. I was really happy I watched it. The whole feeling of futility, that's just the word that comes to my mind. No matter what they did, no matter what they tried, they were too big, too strong, and nothing was working, and there's no way to beat them. They have no frame of reference for this. Everything is awful. And I love that kind of stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. What's interesting about this movie is, like, we've had this huge action action movie, but we've got this huge cast. So you've got Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum, Mary McDonnell, Judd Hirsch, Margaret Collin, Randy Quaid, Robert Loggia, James Rebhorn, Harvey Fierstein, Vivica A. Fox, and Harry Connick Jr. Like, those are like the big names that are in this film. But what's interesting to me is, like, you go back and, like, 1996, like, Will Smith was really kind of starting to break free from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the TV stuff, and move into movies. But I'm going to say, I believe that this movie, Independence Day, was the movie that really established him as a leading man, as a action star in Hollywood. Yeah. And he's become one of the top draws in Hollywood ever since. Absolutely.
This was the coming out party, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. This movie made $817 million worldwide. In 1996, and this is interesting enough, it was the highest grossing film, and at the time, it was the second highest grossing film ever behind Jurassic Park.
Wow.
At the time. Obviously, it's not anymore. I mean, we've got the MCU movies that have, are dominating those categories. But the film also won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Sound Mixing.
Huh.
So this film actually also has an Academy Award, which is kind of crazy because I don't always think of, like, the big summer blockbuster movies as, like, the Academy Award winners. But usually if they are, it's visual effects or sound mixing, sometimes score. But this is a legit, amazing, in my opinion, summer type of blockbuster movie. And it also is very much it's also very much kind of like I don't know, like, I don't want to say American, because even though we focus on the characters that are in America in this film, and it does have a kind of a heavy patriotic theme about, Americans finding a way to overcome, like, you get the idea, like, it's, and they even kind of allude to this later, that it's, not just America's Independence Day, that it's the world's Independence Day,
right.
Because we're not just fighting for the American way of life here, we're fighting for all life. And I kind of like that. It was especially, I kind of like that meant more to me now, kind of in our current culture, than it did back then in 1996.
Yeah, it was kind of nice to see people uniting.
Right.
It's just so scary right now, and I hate it.
Right.
So it was great.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. It was great to watch this movie, and there were a couple of really great moments, and I wasn't expecting to feel some of the things that I ended up feeling as I was watching the movie at different moments. Obviously, I'm at a completely different stage in my life right now than I was 20 plus years ago when I first saw that. So it was just interesting. It was interesting. Certainly the feeling of unity was nice to have, as you mentioned, and some of the rah-rah parts and the speeches were cool. But the moment that, I think it's a moment that hits everybody in some fashion, was the moment that the missile doesn't launch, and we get a suicide mission, so to speak, from Randy Quaid's character. And as a father now, wanting to do what's right,
that hits you differently, right?
It does. It hits you differently. And that moment was, and he's not even, he's not fleshed out, right? We don't know a lot about his character. We get little bits and pieces and moments, but we get enough.
Yeah, his character's there for comedy relief.
Yeah. Which is what he is in most of the movies that I've seen him in.
Yes.
I saw it and I went, oh my gosh, Christmas Vacation? I did not know you were in this.
Right.
But yeah, that moment hit me with some tenderness that I wasn't expecting to feel. In addition to all kind of the rah-rah Independence Day unity moments. So it was nice. It was nice.
So the plot of this movie is that basically, right from the get-go, this huge, big alien spacecraft is kind of halfway between, I don't know, the moon and the Earth, and it's slowing down, and then it ends up dispatching like 15 smaller ships. And by smaller ships, I mean they're like, something like 15 miles across. Right. And they basically have this weapon that basically is kind of like this, I don't know, they hover over a city and they basically blast it with kind of like this energy beam, and it basically detonates the equivalent of, a couple nuclear bombs and blows up and kills everything. And the plot revolves around A, humanity trying to survive, and then B, the president of the United States, a couple members of his cabinet, Secretary of Defense, trying to deal with, what do we do next? And we've got an MIT-trained satellite technician that works for a cable station, a broadcast station, in the acting of oh gosh, what's his name? I'm blanking right now. Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
Who decodes the signal, realizes it's a countdown, and later on figures out that, oh, by the way, if we implant a computer virus into this, because they're using our satellites and using computer tech to talk, we can take down their shields and we can fight back. You've got the Will Smith character of Stephen Hiller, Captain Hiller, who is he's basically a fighter jet pilot, and he's a fighter jet pilot who's trying to get into NASA because he wants to go to outer space. Which I always thought was kind of like a cool little touch to kind of add on the fact that, he's been denied NASA again for like apparently, a second or maybe third time. And then later in the film, he actually gets to go into outer space, on a recovered, alien spacecraft. So like, how cool is that, right? And basically the idea is they're going to use a computer virus and, save all of the world and blow them up and then be able to attack them and coordinate it around the world. The interesting thing about this for me is the science in this. Okay, it's a summer blockbuster movie. It's a little hokey. Part of it's like, okay, so they're just going to fly up there and they're going to upload a computer virus and it's going to spread that fast through their entire network that, they must have some sort of instantaneous, communication system on their network that it passes not only that quickly on the mothership, but all the way down to all the little satellite ships too. That I kind of look at it now and go, okay, like, okay,
right.
Come on. It might have to take a little bit longer than like, oh, hey, 10 seconds have passed. Go ahead and, blow up everything. But what I thought was really cool, though, was the inclusion of the conspiracy that Area 51 houses a spacecraft that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, and that we have had the government has known existence of aliens and spacecraft since the 1950s. And I love that, like, that becomes actually a part of the plot of this movie. And, the president's denying it, and then the director of the CIA is like, well, that's not entirely true. And so that they actually go to, their, a set piece that is Area 51, and that the main scientist is Brent Spiner, who played Data on Star Trek The Next Generation. I love that. Like, that whole set piece and that whole idea, I think is actually brilliant story writing. Because how do you tell a space alien kind of story about invading the Earth? Well, you just go back to a kind of a common held belief that a lot of Americans have, that there's this government conspiracy that's already kind of baked into kind of the pop culture zeitgeist, and we can use that to help tell our story. I think that's brilliant storytelling, Matt.
There's a lot of really good, cool storytelling elements in the movie. That I was surprised at how well I mean, storytelling is storytelling no matter what. No matter what decade, no matter what year, no matter what technology is being used. But I was surprised just overall how this movie has held up after 24 years. I wasn't taken out of a lot of moments, whether that's due to shoddy writing and bad storytelling, or it's due to crappy CGI. Obviously, it's not perfect. And there are obvious moments where this is not a 2020 film. But none of us have seen a 2020 film yet, so we don't know. If we were able to see them, they wouldn't look like that. But I gotta say, I was pretty impressed with most of the CG, and the aliens were scary, and they were cool, and they still obviously they're not as full of motion as they would be now, but I think they look great.
Well, what I thought was interesting too was that this is a sci-fi movie, but when we get to the set piece on Area 51, it very much becomes a horror movie for about 10 minutes. I mean, it really has these horror elements, with they're going to operate on this, endoskeleton of this alien and try to open it up. And then the alien starts to move, and then all of a sudden, now it's killing people, and, it's dark, and you only see parts of it. And, I realized, they're doing the things that are very common in horror movies, as well as we don't see the alien until, halfway or more than halfway through the film. We don't know what the aliens want. We don't know, why they're coming to Earth until, way later in the film. Which I kind of feel is kind of how a lot of horror or suspense movies do things. Like if you think back to the movie Jaws, you don't actually see the shark until you're 3/4 of the way through the film. Alien, the first Alien movie, you don't actually see the alien until you're at least an hour into the film or more. I can't remember. I know it's definitely more than an hour into the film. You're past halfway point. And so I thought it was really cool that they kind of use that because they can build tension on the whole belief of, the viewer of saying we don't know what this is yet. We haven't seen this yet. So it's more suspenseful. It's more scary. And when they finally do let you see it in this film, it's this kind of set piece and section where it feels like a full on horror movie just with the way they're doing it. A sci-fi horror movie, but I thought that was really cool. I thought that still stood up, but I will say I did notice a few of the CG special effects stuff when you watch the Empire State Building or the White House or any of the kind of the big buildings kind of explode. They still look good, but we're to a different level now, with where cinema is and film is, that it doesn't look quite as good anymore. But for 24 years ago, pretty darn good. I did notice it when the recovered Roswell spaceship is up in the mothership and they're trying to break the dock and trying to kind of shake that thing loose, the way they kind of try to make it jiggle and show some sort of static discharge. That didn't look great by today's standards, not at all. It looked a little fake. Here's the thing though, Matt. This movie began shooting in July of 1995, and the movie was completed on June 20th of 96, and it released July 2nd of 96. So they filmed this entire movie, CGI, editing, everything, in literally a year's time. That is amazing. Yes, I thought that too. I was like, holy crap, what they got out of only a year's time with post-production? I was very, very, very impressed.
Wow. I wish every movie and every TV show was like that now. Just work on a project, get it done, and let me watch Stranger Things season 4. I don't want to wait anymore. Just let me watch it. This is stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
Something else I found really interesting is Roland Emmerich, who is the director and also one of the the screenwriters on this, is while he was promoting another sci-fi project, Stargate, people were asking him about his belief in the existence of alien life. And he said that he doesn't believe in the existence of alien life at all. But then he started kind of thinking like, okay, if aliens were to come to Earth, like what would they be doing? Or like why? Like why would they travel however long of a distance to then only like, remain hidden or kind of in hiding, which is kind of like, we see a lot of aliens, stories with aliens coming to Earth, like they try to stay hidden or not be seen or whatever. And we don't really know why. And Roland Emmerich was basically like, no, my idea is they're going to come to Earth and they're going to try to destroy the Earth because basically they're, just using up all the resources they can. Like they say in the movie, they're like locusts, right? They just go and feed on everything they can
Right.
and then they move on. And so he created something where he's just like, no, we're going to show the aliens, but they're basically just going to come here to destroy everything. And that's all there is to it. And I like that he just had this idea because reporters are asking him questions about his beliefs on alien life, because Stargate had elements of aliens involved in it. And, he basically just said like, okay, well, like, what would it be? And he just kind of came up with an idea, and then boom, they're off and running, and next thing you know, they're shooting in New York City, and, bada boom, bada bing, we got a movie, like, a year later.
That's amazing to me. That really is. And it's such a huge movie too. I mean, it's not, I don't know. Now blockbusters take so long to develop, right? From start to finish.
Yes.
I mean, they've been working on it for, 10 years sometimes. And Independence Day just, and it's such an iconic film too. It's fun when everything comes together like this. And it just works and clicks, and everyone does their job and makes an amazing film. I'm impressed, and I will say that I've been sleeping on this movie for not revisiting it for 20 years. I've been sleeping on it.
Yeah,
I feel
I
bad
agree.
Almost. I just was.
I don't agree. You've been sleeping. I agree. I've also been sleeping on it. Yes.
It was fun just to watch and to pause the movie and go, oh my gosh, Jesse, he's in this. Oh my gosh, she's in this. Oh my gosh, they're in this. I just had completely forgotten, other than Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum, I had forgotten everybody who was in that movie.
So, some interesting things is that obviously, we're kind of talking about some of the things they were doing and having to do in the year's time they made the film. Most of those pieces that you see being blown up, like the White House, the Empire State Building, those they actually built miniatures of, and they filmed the miniatures, and they blew up the miniatures. And I say miniature, like, we're talking that, what is I read? Like a 30-foot tall model of, some of these things. Like the mothership, spanned 12 feet, right? So they didn't do all of that in CG. Like nowadays, you would just show blowing up of the Empire State Building or the White House in CG only, right? You wouldn't even do a model, but like these were all done with like, a model of the White House that was like, covered 10 feet, and by 5 feet, and using forced perspective shots to do that. And I look at that and I go, that's pretty amazing what they did as far as kind of like using they were using CGI, but they were also using some kind of like old school techniques to show stuff. Because obviously, you go back into the late 70s, early 80s when George Lucas is shooting Star Wars, the Death Star isn't CG; it's a miniature that they had created. They've got other things that are miniatures that are being used for shots like that. So it's kind of cool to see that. Did you know that there was an alternate ending? It was not chosen, but they had an alternate ending idea. No. So in the filmed version of the ending, Russell Cass is flying, one of the fighter pilots, or one of the fighter jets. Sorry, he's not flying a fighter pilot. That would be weird. He's flying one of the fighters, and he gets the locked missile, and he ends up, flying it in, and blowing everything up, and giving his, comedic line, "I'm back," and then boom, and he saves everyone. They actually had an alternate version where he was not chosen to fly because basically, I don't know, he was too drunk or it was going to be too difficult. And so he would later show up flying his biplane that he used at the beginning part of the movie for crop dusting with a missile tied to it. And he would basically then sacrifice himself in the same way.
Ah.
Let me ask you, if they would have filmed the biplane version and that's the ending we would have got, for me, like, I just hearing that saying, like, really? Who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Like, that just, like, says, like, well, wait a minute. You've built up the idea that he was, he flew fighter jets in Nam, and, he's struggled since then, and, claims to have been, taken and kidnapped by the aliens and probed and whatnot. And then you're going to let the movie finish off with a biplane from, like, World War I era.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
glad they didn't go that route. I think that would have been bad.
Dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So this movie, obviously, we know, it was a big thing. It had so much cross promotion. I don't know, Matt, if you remember much of this, but, like, there was tie-ins with, like, Apple. So, like, with, computers, because obviously they were using an Apple to PowerBook to, do the uploading of the virus. There was tie-ins with Coca-Cola because obviously they were shooting the Coke can. I remember as I was watching this movie, the little boy that's his girlfriend's son was wearing a Reebok hat. And I don't know why, but, like, there was something, like, in this one shot where he picks him up and he's holding him. Like, that Reebok hat is just, like, so right there and in your face. And I was like, well, okay. Reebok is definitely, a sponsor and paid for some product placement here.
Yep.
There was, like, this thing where, like, the Fox network aired a half-hour special of the film, which they were actually doing, like, spoof fake news reports for events of the film, which is kind of interesting. And then one of the other things, obviously, is that, it was, this was done and had a THX trailer, and so there was kind of tied in there with kind of the George Lucas THX and the sound quality. But interesting, I found out that Bill Clinton and his family got a private screening at the White House of this movie
Cool.
before it released. I started thinking, okay, first of all, it's pretty cool that a president can get a private screening of a film.
Yeah.
But second of all, could you imagine being the president watching this movie right before Independence Day in the White House about a president in the White House having to deal with this kind of crisis and seeing the White House blow up? Talk about, like, surreal. Like, I had this moment where I walked out of the theater on July 2nd, 1996, and I looked up into the sky. How crazy would it have been to think, like, Bill Clinton was doing the exact same thing, thinking, like, well, Hillary, I don't know, I'm gonna go check it out and make sure we're still okay. Just saying.
Totally. That would be, yeah. I had other thoughts too, but I'm not going to share them because we don't get political on this podcast.
Right. Yeah, I kept it light. Interestingly enough, there was some censorship of this movie. I found out, doing some research, that in Lebanon, based on some of the issue, because Judd Hirsch's character is Jewish, and he dons the little hat, which is called, I think, a kippah, and there was kind of like he was leading some soldiers in a Jewish prayer. Parts of that film were cut out in order to be shown in Lebanon and in other parts of the world, because they also showed, if you remember, like, Israeli and Arab troops working together for the counter invasion, for the attack. And so because of some of that stuff, there was some censorship in some other places around the world. Some of those scenes were cut and not shown, which unfortunately I think is too bad, because the whole message of the movie there at the end is like the whole world has to come together, and, you know, existing countries with grudges and people with, you know, grudges going back centuries had to put those aside in order to save all of humanity. And I think it's too bad that got censored out back in 1996. Wild, right? Yeah, so it got interesting enough. What would you guess was the critical response to Independence Day?
Fantastic, hopefully. No, 65% on Rotten Tomatoes this days, if it were to come out.
It was 65%.
No, it wasn't.
It was 65% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I honestly didn't look.
You're right on the money. Some of the stuff some of the knocks against it, they said like the plot's thin, so's character development, that it was just kind of like a big spectacle, right? There was a lot to look at.
Yeah.
Metacritic scored it a 59 out of 100. Cinema Score gave the average grade of an A on an A+ to an F scale.
Okay.
It's like Cinema Score by audiences, Cinema Score's audiences, they gave it an A. Audiences loved this movie. Yeah. I mean, obviously, right? Like it was the top grossing film of 1996. And at the time, second worldwide to Jurassic Park of all time. But it scored really, really, really well with the audiences, not super great with the critics. I will say, as I rewatched it today, I did kind of like look for some of the plot stuff, and like there's points where I went like, well, wait a minute. You just brought this up, but then we never go back to it again. Like, if we have a little bit of a further conversation about this, like, why couldn't, like, we should have been able to figure this out. Like, there was just things that seemed a little obvious to me, like, if you would have taken half a second breather here, you could have avoided a lot of, you know, all this, you know, trouble and whatnot. Anyway, so like I get that. I do feel like though that it's a really fun movie.
Yeah.
This is definitely a movie I think when my boys get a little bit older, because there is a little bit of language in this movie. And that's really all it is. It's language and then some scary depictions, right? I mean, like I said, the alien scene when they're in Area 51, that's pretty freaky.
Yeah,
like for a
Sure.
kid. But other than that, like this is a movie that I definitely want to watch with my boys at some time down the road. Would this be a movie you would still, 24 years later, would you recommend this movie to people?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of an American touchstone movie, so yeah.
I think so too. I definitely would say, like, you know, watch it around the 4th of July, because it does have some of the patriotic themes. I don't think it's like as like strong, kind of like gung-ho American jingoistic as like, you know, some other stuff that's out there based around the 4th of July. But it definitely is, you know, there's some, you know, kind of, you know, pro-Americans figured out how to do this, you know, da-da-da-da-da. But it's just a fun summer blockbuster movie. Even if it's a little dated, it doesn't feel like it's badly dated, if that makes sense.
Absolutely agree.
So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna say, Matt, let's give this a grade from an A+ to an F, based on today, like today's date.
Yeah.
And how movies are. Like, how would you rate this movie today if this movie came out, you know, this weekend, let's say?
I would give it a solid B, I think.
Why a B?
It was good. I felt like some of the characters were a little wasted and underdeveloped, and I would like to have seen more development or just fewer plot lines poking around. It seemed like there were like 6 that we were all following between.
Right, like the kid who's sick.
Fox's character, and
Yeah.
then you got Will Smith in a different place. Then you got the crop duster, and then you got the president, and then you got the Jeff Goldblum, and I just felt like there were too many for it to be a great, great, great movie, but I really enjoyed it. That's my biggest kind of thing. And then the music was good, but it's not iconic. There's nothing iconic to me when I watched it.
REM's End of the World?
Okay,
it's the end of the world, which is super ridiculous, but yes.
Yeah,
I get your, the funny thing is I give it a B too, Matt. Like that was exactly what I was thinking, is that by today's standards, yes, the CG needs some work. And I agree with you. Some of the characters, like I kept thinking like, all right, like why are we caring about like what's the deal with this kid and how he's sick and he got angry and he threw his medicine down and now he needs like it kind of felt like that whole little plot of like the crop dusters kids, Russell Cass's kids. I was like, if this movie didn't have so much other things going on, they could have like developed that more and made that a bigger thing. So it actually felt like it built real tension and drama. But instead, like, I didn't feel any tension or drama about the welfare of this kid. It's like, yeah, okay, this is one kid who doesn't have medicine now and he's getting sick. The whole world is being blown up. Millions of people have died. Like, it was kind of just like, yeah, stuff like that could be cut and edited together for some tighter storytelling. But on the whole, it's a fun movie. It's an exciting movie. It keeps you watching it through the whole thing. I think it's a solid B by today's standards. Definitely in 1996, it was an A. It was an A, if not A plus for me.
Right.
Because it was amazing. It was fun. I mean, everything about it seemed good back then. But like through today's lens, I look at it and go, okay, there's a little more chinks in the armor, but not a lot. It's still a really good movie.
Yep, I agree.
So Matt, I love this movie. I think this is definitely a recommendation. But my question to you and to the Super Friends, let's kind of keep on, because we're getting to this. Like, I feel like we're getting to the summer here, and this is when we'd have blockbusters, and we don't have blockbusters to go see.
Truth.
I mean, that's just kind of how it is. So I want to get recommendations. Like, I want to hear, like, what's one of your favorite summer blockbuster movies, so that we can compose a list of summer blockbuster movies, so that we can maybe create a Fortress of Nerditude summer blockbuster viewing schedule or something, and we can put it out on social media and just say, like, here's something. If you're missing the movie theaters, here's movies we recommend for summer blockbusters to pop some popcorn, sit down with your friends, with your family, with your significant other, by yourself, whoever you want to do that with, and just have a good, fun time reliving some classic summer blockbuster movies.
Nice.
So Super Friends, that's our question. Get us your answers at all the normal places. This is going to be the email, fortofnerd@gmail.com, Facebook, facebook.com/fortofnerd, on Twitter @fortofnerd, on Instagram fortofnerd, or you can call the phone number 801-477-7687, and we will talk about those and start compiling that list next week, which, Matt, will really just be for you and I, like later this week when we record it. So,
yeah, baby.
Little behind the scenes, pull the curtain back a little bit. So anyway, Matt, once again, this is really fun. I'm glad we went back and rewatched this movie.
Yeah, me too. Totally. It was awesome.
Yeah. So let's get out of here. Super Friends, have a happy 4th of July. Have a safe 4th of July. I know there's not going to be a lot of fireworks in a lot of places. If you're going to be doing fireworks yourself in your neighborhoods, stay safe, be cautious. There's no reason to lose body parts or puncture yourself or any of those crazy things that can happen around the 4th of July. And, try not to burn the house down, as my dad would always say.
Wise.
Yeah, so happy 4th of July. Have a happy holiday. And from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude, to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.